Hey, ¿qué pasa, Calexico? Welcome back to the podcast. Today's a little bit nervous today because today is kind of like my biggest interview. I feel because I'm here with David Dale, Calexico City Manager, and lately we've been having a lot of things going on that kind of like tragedies and stuff like that kind of want to kind of address. And in my podcast, I try not to be really, what do you call it? Like, maybe like political or controversial, just facts,
Right.
And this one, I think this question is, really important because, what happened was it last weekend, right? It's a big part of our city, it brings a lot of people into our city, and revenue to the community. Can you tell us a little update on the Santo Tomas fire? Do you have kind of like an idea of how it started? The people that are impacted, how are they gonna be helped out? Or
right. So the investigation's ongoing, and we'll know more when the report comes out. Fire department is doing their due diligence as we speak, out there investigating. We have our building department out there inspecting the rest of the undamaged stalls to ensure that they are safe for the public, so that if they are safe, then they can reopen. So at this moment, we're still in the investigation phase. Well, the fire department has to do their investigation, and once they're done, the Department of Toxic Substances Control comes in and does an investigation to make sure that the health and safety is there. That's our primary concern, the health and safety of the public at this point.
And in terms of the people that had some of their products that they sell, are they gonna was there an insurance that the Santo Tomas had that's gonna help them out, or is it total loss? Or
I think that's between the vendors and the owner in terms of what their insurances were. I'm not privy to that information. I believe they have insurance in terms of the owner of Santo Tomas. They've spoken about their insurance, so we're hoping that they can work it out between themselves. In the meantime, we've given them the resources that are available through the SBA and other ways that they can get loans, short-term loans and low-interest loans, to get them back on their feet. So that's what we can offer. We also offer them to be able to move to the other swap meet for no charge from the city, no extra charge on their business licenses or anything like that. So those vendors that do have business licenses can move over to Las Palmas.
Oh, okay, so they're being helped out in that way in terms of the city. Yeah. I had a question. I read somewhere that you were born in Denmark.
Yes. Yeah, it was a strange situation. It was in the 70s, I guess. The Vietnam War was going on, and my mom felt that if I was born abroad, that later on in life, when I turned 18, I could dodge the draft. That was her idea. So when I was, she was 9 months pregnant, she went out to Denmark, and behold, I was born there as a United States citizen, born abroad.
So, and I kind of skipped this question. That was one of my first questions. But if you could like dumb down the the position of the city manager, what is it that the city manager is in charge of in every city?
So on the org chart, the city manager sits about the third level. The first level is the citizens. The citizens are in charge of everything. Okay. And then after the citizens, it's the city council. And then the city manager is after the city council. And the way I view it, the city manager, in his position or her position, is to further the goals of the council. And that's how I see it. So the city manager oversees the entire city, the day-to-day operations, and those kind of things. I've been doing more or less two jobs, as have a lot of our department heads and other people in the city. I try to do public works as I can in terms of time, but the city manager position seems to take at least 90% of that time of mine, but I got about 10% that I donate to or I dedicate to public works.
And And you do that because we don't have somebody in public works, or?
Well, right now I'm the only professional engineer in the entire city. So I basically am the city engineer. I've got the city land surveyor as well, and so we try to do the best we can with what we've got. And I know our assistant city manager. He does two jobs as well. He's economic development director and assistant city manager. So we're all kind of doing as much as we can with what we have. We are down, as has been said many times, in our staffing levels because of our current budget crisis. And we still are in a budget crisis, even though we've made a lot of strides in the past couple of years, ever since Armando Villa came in as city manager, that he sort of turned the ship around. But we're still not quite out of the woods. The general fund balance, the fund balance, is still negative. We really should have 6 months of reserves, which means that if our general fund is, say, 17 million a year, we should have half of that in reserves. We should have about 8 million in reserves, and instead we're negative 1 million. So we still have quite a bit of progress to make, but we are making progress. That's the good thing. It's moving forward. It was a negative $3 million fund balance not 3 years ago, and now it's going down to less than $1 million. So we're making progress, even at the same time as we're making big payments to JPIA for past debts.
What's I was listening to your interview with Gil.
Yeah.
And that's JPIA, something that I kind of didn't know what it was, and also CPI.
Uh-huh.
Can you explain about what those mean? Or
well, JPIA was a joint insurance that like a program that many cities are involved with, and a few years back the city opted or JPI decided that it was no longer viable to continue on that relationship. So we're out of JPIA. However, we're still making payments on those past debts that we owe JPIA from those days, and so essentially it's insurance.
Okay.
And so right now we have we're self-insured. However, we do have an excessive insurance policy. So if we get a claim that's above what a certain level is, then they'll kick in.
Okay.
But that's basically what it is.
CIP.
CIP,
Mm-hmm.
Capital Improvement Plan.
Yeah.
Oh, so the CIP is our list of projects for 5 years that we see that we need in terms of our planning processes. So we have 5 years of projects that we list out in water, sewer, streets, parks, airport, you name it. So that essentially that's what.
Okay. So and the CIP is where the water increase, the new water plant, is that where it all falls into?
Yeah. So in terms of the water and sewer rates, we're projecting out 5 years, and so we need certain revenues to cover those projects that we know we need. I
think it was a couple months ago, I talked to Ms. Norma Sierra Galindo. She's and she mentioned that Calexico had gotten a rate cut, we were getting one of the lowest water rates from the IID, and she said that it's supposed to be maybe $250,000 that was supposed to be saved from that cut. And she kind of mentioned why is our water rate still going up even though the IID is selling our water cheaper than anybody in the valley.
So let's just go back in history a little bit. There was a time when the rates were about, I want to say $60 or $70 an acre foot. Mm-hmm. And what an acre foot is, if you can imagine an acre of land and 1 foot, and that is how much water is an acre foot. So that was 60 something dollars, I think $70. And I want to say in 2014, the IID reduced that to just over $20 to meet with the same rates as the rest of the users that IID has, including farmers and so forth. So it was reduced to about $20. We spend, I want to say, about $10,000 a month on raw water, something like that. So if you want to just do the quick math, it would be about 3 times. We save about $20,000 a month times 12. It's So yeah, around 200 and some odd $1,000 differences. Now, that's good for the city. Unfortunately, that's not the only thing that drives the rates. That's just the raw water. Then we store the raw water. We pump the raw water to the water treatment plant. At the water treatment plant, it's gone through a number of different processes, and we add chemicals. It's stored in tanks, and then it's pumped into the system through water pipeline distribution and in through a meter into your house. So raw water, the purchase of raw water is just one small portion of the entire picture. Our costs are around $6 million every year. So if you take $6 million, or $6 million, $200,000 now suddenly seems like it's not. It's just a real small portion of the entire picture. Yeah. So yeah, I get it. I've heard others say, why the raw water rates gone down? How can the rates go up? Well, there's a lot of different costs other than just purchasing the water.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that I asked my friends and see if they had any questions was, we've seen a decline in like businesses like Forever 21 closed down, Burger King closed down, Toys R Us closed down, which Toys R Us was, not our fault entirely, it was corporate stuff. But the downtown is kind of like dead. And they want to know, what the plan is for that. I feel that, right now our lines to cross the border are really, slow, and, we depend a lot in terms from, the people that cross, the border. Do you have any communications with the, customs, people in terms of, why is this going on?
Yeah.
Is there any, I don't know, like, reason or is it going to get better? They were supposed to build a new port of entry and, help the time, border crossing times with that, but it seems like it's getting a little bit worse.
Yeah. So yeah, I get emails at times and voice messages and calls about why aren't we doing something to increase the speed of the border? We have literally no access to that issue. I know the county at some point was talking to the Mexican side in terms of increasing their staffing there, and still working on that. And I think that's part of the big picture in terms of why sometimes the lines back up, is that even though there's a certain number of lanes on the Mexican side, they only staff like 3 or so. So it really is something that is in the hands of Mexico and their government in terms of, do they want to staff that border and spend the money to do that? So we have really no power over that. Although we've met with them a few times, but So.
What about in terms of people coming from the south? Is there any do you guys have any communication with?
Well, border CBP, that in the port authority and so forth, that again is we have no control over that. Although we can meet with them, we can make a request. That of course is it's a little bit. You can't ask them to hurry up and check everybody when they're trying to prevent the crossing of whether it's illegal people or drugs and stuff like that. But sometimes, like kind of like what you said in terms of people going south, there's sometimes when you're coming back from Mexico and there's not every lane's open, or you see a lot of people employees standing around that, you feel that the process could be a little bit, quicker. Yeah. Again, we have no power over that. So it's completely on them. But, we can make requests. We have more contact with them, of course, because they're on this side than we do on the Mexican side.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of, trying to bring more businesses down to maybe the downtown area or Imperial, is there any plan that, the city's kind of trying to implement? Or
we have a lot of plans, but there are a lot of companies that are talking to us about taking over those buildings that have been now evacuated because of the business slowdown for those particular businesses. So we feel pretty confident that those, even though we have lost, Toys R Us and Forever 21, that additional businesses will be coming in to fill those those empty buildings.
Okay, but there is talks of other.
There's a number of companies that are looking at the city of Calexico right now. To me, it looks really bright. And in terms of downtown, we are looking at an action plan that we're going to implement in the near future. We have a plan, and at this point, we need to meet with the downtown businessmen and business people to get the buy-in.
Okay.
So
I think I read somewhere that the budget for that water plant is like $50 million.
No, there's a little bit of miscommunication on that. Mm-hmm. So there was some concern that we're raising the water rates to fix a water plant that's in good condition, and I addressed that a little bit in the last council meeting. In that we know that the water treatment plant itself is in pretty good condition. We just ended up spending $1.5 million on improvements, and there are still some improvements that could be made, but that's not the big picture. When you're talking about tens of millions of dollars, part of that is to be spent on increasing the capacity of the water plant, and the rest of it is to replace so there's two. There's a water treatment plant, and then there's a wastewater treatment plant. People understand that when you just say water, they just water.
Yeah, they see the water coming in, but they don't think of when it goes out, where it goes to.
Yeah, so in our wastewater treatment plant is in dire need of replacement. So we are working on that, and now that we have a rate structure that will support a bond that we can take to do that project, now we're moving forward on it. So
and what's the budget for it?
So in approximate terms, the wastewater treatment plant is around $30 million, and in our water treatment plant we have probably $6 million for capacity increase. And I was asked why do we want to increase the capacity now? There's the people that don't see a lot of development. What's the reason? And the reason is that we know that a lot of development will be occurring in the next 5 years. So we want to be ready in our water and wastewater treatment plants to accept that development. And so that's why we're looking at it now. I mean, if we started a water treatment, let's say the water treatment plant capacity increase today, the construction from now wouldn't probably be completed for 2.5, 3 years. So we're trying to be proactive and look at not just today, but not tomorrow, but I'm looking 5 years in advance. So in 5 years, the city, I want to be ready so that when the next development wave comes, that we're ready and we can go. Yeah,
because there's been like a kind of like a stagnant, in terms of housing growth in the city. There's if you look at the market, there's really barely any homes for sale here in the city, and there's no new development. So you think that in the near future we're gonna have new residential.
And there's been a lot of talk about this development on the north side on Cole Road and 1,000 units more or less, and we're still working on that. And I really do believe that that's going to happen. So that's a big project in and of itself. And we know of a number of industrial projects, commercial projects that are going to be happening on the northwest side of town too. And so there's just a lot of things, a lot of potential, let's put it that way, a lot of interest from developers right now. And so we're just trying to get in the preparing phase. So we want to be ready when this thing happens, and it will happen.
We got a couple new board members. What do you feel about ours? Because one of them is fairly young. David's fairly young. Miss Ariela, I fairly know. I've never really met her or talked to her. Like, what are your feelings of the new board members coming in? Is it you think that because lately we've had this board where it's been kind of calm. We've been out of the news. We've been out of the Ivy press. Yeah. Do you feel like that trend's going to continue with these new board members?
I really do. I think that they have a heart for their city. Otherwise, they wouldn't have run. I believe that they're doing this for the city and not for themselves. That's my belief. And so I believe that they will continue this, professionalism that we're seeing on the council dais at this moment. And we'll see. We'll move forward. And then, obviously in January, when Mr. Escobar, Councilman Escobar, moves to the county, there will be an empty seat there too. And so the council will most likely vote to appoint somebody for a 2-year span.
How do you apply for that, or how do you run for that one spot?
So all the details are still to be worked out. It's most likely an application process, and the council will review those applications one-on-one and make their determinations how they want to do that.
Okay. Recently, I've been noticing that our air quality hasn't been all that great. Do you feel it has to do with our long lines, both on the south and north end of the borders, or is it just our borders to the south that it's kind of, we kind of know that down the south there's less quality control in terms of the way they burn stuff, or they chemicals and stuff like that. Do you feel it's because of that, or?
Well, it's been well documented that we are getting some smog and some air quality issues from the south, from our neighbors to the south. We also create our own dust issues, just because this is a desert and a lot of the is not paved, and then there's just dust. I want to say that, but though, in terms of, if you look at the air quality for Calexico and you compare it to, say, Brawley, Brawley has better air quality than we do, and I think a lot of that has to do with our neighbors, the dust coming from the south.
Yeah. Something that got recently passed through was the cannabis, business licenses and stuff like that. How do you think that's gonna help our economic growth?
So it's I believe it'll help the city in terms of our budgeting and our economics. We need more revenue. And we need more revenue so we can increase our police force, so we can increase our fire department. Right now, we are really in minimal staffing levels on police and fire. And here at City Hall, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of us are doing 2 different jobs, So getting that revenue from cannabis is going to be huge, I think, for the city, so that we can provide more services and better services to this community.
I'm looking at my phone now because I have people that are asking me questions.
Sure.
So not that I don't want to seem rude.
No, please. That's fine.
Yeah, I already asked about the buildings, Santo Tomas. It's a lot of redundant questions that in terms of like the road work, how is that decided? How does the city say, like, oh, we're going to work on this road? Or
So it's a great question. We have basically, well, I don't know if you're aware, but we just did our Measure D bonding, which means that we have road projects for the next 3 to 4 years. And so spending $3 to $4 million every year for the next 4 years. So we've got a lot of streets that we're going to be doing. Plus, the SB1 is money still coming in to the tune of around $700,000 a year to the city. We right now we're primed to do a lot of road projects. Now, your question was, how do we determine what streets get the work, right? The way I look at it is that it's the streets that are in the worst condition that have the most traffic. So those are the 2 variables, and really it's the most traffic that is the bigger variable. We've got a lot of streets that are maybe not used as much as others. And the ones that are used the most probably will get the first treatments. Okay. So that's how we kind of look at it. And also, when you look at it in terms of the deterioration of the streets, if there's a street that's completely needing, when we look at doing those ones too.
Okay. Somebody says that soon the police department and fire department will be negotiating their contracts. Is there funding to keep these emergency services?
So we already finished the contracts with fire and police earlier this year. So they have contracts for the next 3 to 5 years on both of them. So we've already done that. What we need to do is increase the number of policemen, increase the number of fire, and so that's what our goal is. Okay. But their contracts are already there.
Somebody said, "Can you explain the water rates going on in layman's terms?" I think you kind of already addressed that, right? Or
yeah.
if you could,
Okay, so the thing is that we're proposed to change the structure itself. So right now the rate structure, the way it works, is the way I kind of look at it is kind of a socialist system, because you pay, let's say, $43 or $44 a month, and you get 30 units, which 30 units is 22 or 23,000 gallons a month. So if you use 10 gallons a month or 23,000 gallons, it's the same price. And how they were able to do that is because, well, the ones that use the higher water use, basically the ones that are using the lower water use are essentially, I want to use the word subsidizing, but they're basically paying more, and these guys are paying,
Yeah.
So in layman's terms, I make it easier. And I made this in one of the council meetings. I want to say it was June 27th. A picture of a grocery cart. You go to the grocery store and you put like 2 things in there, and you go up to the cashier and you say, okay, and then they scan them and they say, that'll be $43.89. You're like, but it's only got 3 things. Well, that's what, you could have put more if you wanted to, but you only put 3. So then you leave, and then the guy with a full grocery cart comes up and scan all the stuff, $43.89. It doesn't seem fair, right? Mm-hmm. So, and in fact, what we call Proposition 218, it's a law that's in place. It's actually, we cannot do that moving forward. If we propose a rate change, then the whole structure needs to be changed like we proposed, where if you use 2 units, you pay for 2. If you use 17, you pay for 17. If you use 100, you pay for 100. And so that's what this new structure is.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people are angry that they were using a lot and yet not paying. They were like on the better end of the spectrum.
I understand that, I do, but what I think the community really does need to understand, this is very important, is that it's hard to see from where we're sitting, but there is a drought happening. Mm-hmm. And you can just look at the levels of Lake Mead. Lake Mead is what supplies the Colorado River water, and it's down to 46% of its capacity, and it's dropping every year. And so at some point, people will start to understand the value of water.
Yeah. I was at the dam this summer,
mm-hmm.
and you could tell like the line where it was. Now it's.
I really want to scream that out as loud as I can. We really undervalue water right now, and it's one of those things where you don't miss it till it's gone.
Yeah.
When you turn the faucet and there's no water, now all of a sudden it's the huge emergency, right? Mm-hmm. The way I look at it, the water is the most valuable, precious resource by far. Like, if you just in terms of life, like if you were in a desert, let's imagine you were in a desert, you've been in there 2 days, it's 120 degrees, you had no water, and somebody offered you, 6 pounds of gold or 1 glass of water, what would you take? I would take the water, right? Yeah. And so put that in perspective. I mean, there's going to be a time and we're starting now, but in conservation will be forced on us from the state. Probably, that's my view. But we're being proactive in this regard. So this, hopefully people will see this and say, you know what, I need to conserve water.
Yeah. And a lot of us like having our, green lawns and stuff like that, but that's not a priority. It's, it's a cosmetic thing, I
mean, obviously I would like to see the city as beautiful as it can, but again, water is a very precious resource. So
and a lot of people are asking in terms of parks and stuff like that. How's our the future in terms of bettering our facilities?
So you asked earlier, what can cannabis do? The revenue. Well, the revenue from cannabis goes to our general fund. General fund money can be used for police, fire, parks, et cetera, et cetera. And so however the city council determines they want to spend that money. So right now, as we see that as cannabis revenues increase, we may be able to use some of that money to fund the parks. As it is right now, and again, mentioned once again, our staffing levels are really low. we have just a few, 2 or 3 people that have dedicated to our parks and to clean, maintain it. They really are doing an amazing job for what we have, for the resources that we have.
Yeah.
So, but there are some plans, and we have plans to develop Cordova Park as it is right now. Cordova Park is a great park, but there's 6 acres of just dirt.
Yeah, I live around the corner there. So
we just completed the plans in-house for 3 baseball fields and a soccer field there and a basketball court eventually. Right now, through Measure H bonding, we have about $1 million, and then we had about $400,000 other monies for that. I want to say we have about 1.4 to 1.5 million. It's not enough to do what our grandiose plans there, but so we're looking at potentially getting some volunteers maybe to do the grading, and we're looking at some creative options to get that park developed. And in meanwhile, we have the Legion Park, which is off of Cesar Chavez, and a lot of people are wondering, when is it going to close? Because there are plans to close that park. We already have a tentative map, final map, which is coming, that will be splitting that park into 4 parcels that we'll be able to lease on a long-term basis or sell, because now that's going to be prime commercial development, right?
Yeah.
So that's additional revenue that we'll be getting, and possibly use that money to develop additional parks.
So going back to the cannabis, what areas are designated for the cannabis business?
There's what we call the cannabis overlay zone. And that's in the northwest corner of town, the town center area. It's bounded by a line around there. So they can only be developed within that cannabis overlay zone, northwest corner of town.
Northwest, okay. Over by Denny's in that area? Or
yeah, north of Denny's and west.
Okay. By the, where the Llanteras and the tire shops are back there?
Yes, yeah, back there. And if you know where town center development that never developed.
Oh, yeah.
That area, yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's going to be there. And so, I guess we kind of encourage people to go buy some cannabis so they can help the community.
I'm not encouraging that. I'm not encouraging. I mean,
with moderation, kind of like drinking.
Right now, what we have available is manufacturing and cultivation. Although the council did vote the first time that they for retail sales, it has to still go through a public hearing, which is designated for December 19th at the council meeting next week. So pending approval there, then potentially retail will occur. In retail, there's a big tax on retail sales. We would get so much revenue from that, and we know it's being delivered already anyway in the city. So we're trying to tap into that revenue.
Yeah, because it's just money lost. You know?
It's happening anyway. Let's tap into the revenue.
Yeah. Somebody asked me that. Do you feel like the love of Calexico is kind of like gone down? People not being proud of their community.
What I think is that I want to say 4 years ago, the city went through some of the darkest times that it probably in its history, I'm guessing. We're just coming out of that. And so there's a lot of, I want to say, mistrust in the government, and is probably well-founded, because of things that occurred in those years. But we're trying to change the perspective from the general public to this government, this city government, not only from the general public, but from agencies that surround the city. Our goal is to be more professional, more responsive to the citizens, and listen, and respond as necessary. That's what our goal is. So, yes, I do think there is some mistrust. I think there's some anger toward government and all that kind of stuff. But we're trying to change their outlook of that.
Yeah, and even in terms of customer service. I guess you can say you guys are running a business here.
Yes.
And sometimes, people come here and they may not be treated kindly.
That's to say it nicely, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are aware that we still have issues to address here. We are making progress, and I want the public to know that we are making progress. I hope that they see now that when they come in, their concerns are addressed on a timely manner, and if they're not, let me know or let the department heads know, and we'll try to address that.
Yeah, and I was surprised when I emailed you yesterday. I was like, he's probably super busy. He probably won't get back to me like till a couple of weeks. So I mean, I can say with experience that if you shoot you like an email, like a quick email.
I try to. Sometimes I find that it's almost impossible. Before, when I started here at the city, I was public works director. I had more, I guess, time. And I would respond to everything, all the emails, even the soliciting emails I would respond to. I found now that that's almost impossible. Like when I see a soliciting email, I just almost have to just disregard. Like I don't have not even just the time, but it's like the energy to address everything that's coming at me at one time. But for example, the important ones, I do try to respond as soon as I can.
Well, thanks for responding. Let's see, I had something else that I asked. Somebody said that, are you going to plan and try to bring that tradition where the city manager carried a mullet?
No? Is that what they're gonna? Yeah.
My friend has asking.
Good one.
Yeah, and I was listening to your podcast yesterday when Gil called you the great white. That was funny.
You're trying to get ideas for the interview?
No. Well, kind of like, because I didn't want to seem redundant, and I'll put a link to it, to that episode, because I try to bring in you, not ask the same questions, like your background and stuff like that. You already addressed that there, so I didn't want to kind of seem repetitive, because I don't want to take a lot of your time, and kind of bring a lot of the topics I felt were important but I was listening to it yesterday. I
want to say that was within a month or two of me starting this position. So since then to now, I've had a lot of experience and growth. So there's been some changes since then. So
yeah.
I
grew up here in Calexico. Well, I came here when I was 8, and I grew up in I don't know if you know Las Pichoneras.
Mm-mm.
It's those low-income apartments going up Rockwood, where the Virgin Mary and...
Oh, yeah, in the KGs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, those apartments are called Las Pichoneras.
Okay.
Because back in the days, there was a lot of pigeons.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what are, in terms of population, what's our, how many are low-income homes, Section 8? How many are senior citizen apartments?
We have a big percentage of our city that is low income or senior citizens. A large percentage.
What would you say
I don't know what the number, but I know it's a high percentage. That if you go no farther than looking at our ambulance responses, we have the most number of responses in the county. Period. It's something to the around 4,000 a year of responses, and so we know that there's some
Yeah, I work at Calexico High School, and sometimes I'll walk around, and then whenever I'm by Highway 98, I see a lot of ambulances by the Esquer.
Yeah.
Is it? I see a lot of ambulances in that area. The reason I bring up the low income is because like you said, it's a big population, and sometimes I feel that that population seem to be left out in terms of city events. I remember growing up, you would hear about the mariachi festival, and it was like something that it wasn't geared towards us, because the tickets are pricey.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that there's a way we can incorporate our low income people? Because I feel that if they're a lot of those kids, if they're preoccupied with something, whether it's sports, whether it's
right.
That'll keep a lot of kids from going out and doing
For sure.
Do you guys see any projects to kind of geared towards that population of our community?
Well, one thing that we do is in terms of our fields, we don't charge for youth leagues at all. So we try to incorporate all children in that, regardless of income levels. So hopefully that they can participate in those leagues, and have fun doing that. I know our Recs department and library Recs department has numerous activities that are free of charge or very low cost that they can participate in that stuff as well.
Okay, yeah, because when I grew up, we had a basketball league. It was called CYBL.
Uh-huh.
And my dad was actually, because my dad was the manager of those apartments.
Uh-huh.
Even though I lived there, I was supposed to be middle class.
Uh-huh.
But I sometimes the people there lived better off than I did. So what he did was to keep those kids busy, because we have a basketball court there.
Right.
So he started basketball teams, and he would sometimes out of his own pocket, take kids to 29 pounds to tournaments or Cherry Valley, stuff like that. So I feel that that's missing in our community. I know Sandra and Carlos Contreras.
Mm-hmm.
Contreras ran for the. They have a basketball league that they're starting.
Okay.
They practice out there behind the high school, and they're bringing in a lot of teams from Calipad, Brawley to compete against our kids.
Right.
I don't know if there's anything that they could tap into, like city funds or materials that you guys can help them out. If there's
unfortunately we are restricted in what we can provide in funding wise, and but we do like this tree lighting ceremony that occurred this month. I mean, the city staff was awesome. They went out and got a number of donations, and we're able to give out free gifts and all these kind of things, and we're also having another event on the 22nd, which is next Saturday, I think. I think it's Saturday. That we will also be giving more gifts out. We had additional gifts because we got so many donated, that we had additional gifts that we're going to be able to give again to the 22nd, and just see those kids that are coming up that are obviously low income, to be able to give them a gift and see their face light up. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And in fact, I know what it feels like, because I grew up. My mom was on welfare, and growing up, we were really poor, and I remember eating ketchup, for dinner. But so on the worst case basis, but so I feel and I understand that, I think, because of that.
Yeah, and like I said, I grew up there, and it's kind of fun, like living in that area, because it's like a big family.
Right.
Like you said, sometimes like your neighbor didn't have enough food, but you did. So like I remember going to my neighbors and having dinner and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a big little community in itself, that I feel like when I grew up, I didn't really feel I was part of Calexico. I felt I was.
Oh, okay.
That was my community, my little town. That's how I a lot of times I'm really aggressive when it comes in terms of speaking of like the lower income,
right?
Because I feel that sometimes we're left out of the loop that goes on in terms of Calexico. But it's kind of hard, because like you said, there's a lot of low income homes, senior citizens, so it's kind of hard to focus on one and leave somebody out.
Yeah, no, we certainly don't want to do that.
So I think you pretty much answer a lot of my questions. I don't want to take a lot more of your time, because I know you're busy, but is there anything that you would like to add that we haven't touched?
So when I first started this position, I see this city state mission statement. It's right there in the rotunda. It's right behind the council. And I really related to that a lot, because the reason I think that we are all here, working at the city, is to increase the quality of life for the people here. And that's our goal, period.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I hope that in the future you're open to, first of all, I'm going to offer,
Sure.
my podcast. If anything in the future you would like to come back and address the city and the community. But I hope that, in the future, if there's other things that I forgot, that you'll be willing to, be a returning guest.
Of course, because, the more the community knows what the city is doing, the better. And we throw out this word transparency. It just gets thrown out there. But we want to be just as open as possible to the people, to let them know what's going on. And there's a lot of stuff going on that is happening with this city that you'll see it. I mean, you just look around, you see all the construction that's going on. People will start to see it. It's not just words. We're doing things.
Yeah. No, and I think I can attest to that, I have seen more activity in terms of, seeing the city trucks out there, working on cleaning up areas, cutting down trees. You see more cops around, which is something that's really positive. That you feel a lot more safer. A lot of people don't want to see cops because they're like, oh crap, am I driving fast? Or but it makes you
for protection.
Yeah, it makes you feel that there's somebody out there looking out for you.
And I have to make this shout out to our police department, our fire department, our public works, city staff. Again, I mean, what they do is amazing with the resources that they have. They're stepping up in a big way, big time.
Yeah, and in terms of like I said, like the people loving Calexico, you can really tell in our PD and stuff, and you see a lot of new hires, and you see there's a Facebook Instagram group that the city the police department is, and you see all the stuff that they're posting, and you see that they really care of for their job and helping out the community. So kudos to them. But yeah, thank you once again.
Thank you.
It's getting close to the end of the year. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
It's been great.
It was great meeting you. It was my first time meeting you.
Yeah.
And like I said, hopefully it's not the first and last time.
No, I appreciate this as a way of letting the community know what some of the things that are happening. And maybe we should do this more often. Yeah. Maybe once a month or something.
Sure. I'm
just
down.
To, let the message go, let it out.
Yeah. And that's my goal. Like you said, transparency, facts, information. I want to put out information from the source, not from somebody. Oh yeah, I heard from somebody else.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that going on, and at the end of the day, it may or not be true.
Right.
And it just causes more friction and more hate between and it's at the end of the day, it's not worth it. Like you said, we're all here for the city to make it better and yeah. But yeah, thank you once
Appreciate
again.
Your time too.
And I hope you guys enjoy this interview. I am still pretty nervous because it's, like I said, my biggest interview so far.
Well,
but
gather your questions and bring them back in a month, and we'll do it again.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys, thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.